Thank you very much, Machine, and hello, everybody. I'm Aaron Medic Chamberlain, joined by Indiana, not Natasha, for Skewering Black.
I don't know why. I have no idea.
It's just what he decided to call you on the day, and that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
He accepted his error, and we forgive him one. He gets one. If he does it again, we kick him off the desk, quick shot hosts again, and we're fine.
Please, no. Don't mess up. I don't want a quick shot host.
Nor do I. But we are going to get into our first game of the day just very shortly. G2 up against Splyce. Of course, G2 not that much left to fight for.
Yeah, they've already locked into Rotterdam, at least the top two positions. Now, that said, they haven't secured first just yet, and this kind of begs the question of what type of G2 are we going to see? Are you going to see very angry, super serious, ready to just blow their opponents out of the water G2 that feel embarrassed about a loss? Or are you going to see G2 maybe have a bit more fun, if that's actually possible? G2 maybe experiment a little bit more, practice some styles that they're not necessarily as refined on because there's nothing to lose.
I mean, you couldn't blame them at all. We're starting to see some unique picks come out in solo queue as well. I've heard rumors, whisperings of a Nico AD carry as a possibility. We're going to jump on into the draft. G2 on the blue. Splyce decided to be on the red side here on patch 9.4. And already we've got the Nocturne, the Brawn bands, and the Jace band from Splyce.
And I have to say, we have a lot of teams that are selecting red side today as opposed to blue side. And for me, it's because Silas is disabled. So this is actually huge for me. With only 4 games left to play and a champion that is pretty much a huge priority pick for blue side, I think it infinitely makes red side stronger because now you can just throw three bans. Those were not the 3 bans I was expecting. I was expecting Jace, Jervin, and Lucian, but I think you heard some rumors.
Yeah, we have seen a lot of Nico AD carry coming up. TSM played it top lane last week as well. Can work really well. Not going to see it in this game, but it means that the Jarvan ban we expected is going to work its way through.
Now the question is will they grab the Jarvan or will they grab the Karthus? So what's cool about G2 and Splyce is where Karthus has dropped down in priority for a lot of teams. He's still very high priority between these two teams, specifically because Xerxes is such a strong Karthus player. And while he did receive some nerfs, it basically took him from Super Saiyan to kind of normal Saiyan. So still a big deal.
It only slows, the Q nerfs only slow his clear speed by about 5 to 10 seconds on the first rotation. So Karthus still very powerful. We are going to see the Jarvan locked in straight away for Splyce here. So it's that other power pick that can be flexed through multiple roles.
Yeah, I do expect it to go into Xerxes' hands, however, although it could fit for Chachi. And at this point, Splyce are like, we've got to get strong lanes. We need to be able to contest G2 in the lane phase because we can't just let this Karthus scale up. Because while Karthus is a great pick for Splyce, they have a lot of comfort on it, it's also a great pick against Splyce because you know that they have the longest average game times of anyone in the LEC. And if you have a late game insurance policy like Karthus, just match him in that late game.
G2 very comfortable on the pick as well. Of course, Jankos known for it in the first couple of weeks. Alongside that, we're going to see Splyce get the Thresh, a powerful support pick, can do a huge amount of work. And then the Galio coming out from G2. Now that Galio I expect to be taken by Mickey into the supporting role. We've seen him play it once already this split.
Well, I would suspect you're correct, especially because the LeBlanc is locked in tandem with it. LeBlanc, one of the strongest blind picks available right now for the mid lane position. I do want to touch on the Galio. I like it as a response to the Thresh. Galio has a lot of all-in engage potential, and when you pick up a Thresh, you're normally going to run a kill lane or at least have kill lane potential there. So I like G2 matching firepower for firepower with Splyce.
And the common answer to a LeBlanc in the mid lane is the Lissandra. So tanky with the Aftershock. It's Humanoid's 4th most played champion this split, actually tied first at 2 games. And he's won both times he's played it as well. So a comfort pick for the rookie mid coming out from Splyce.
We're still starting to see a lot of mix-up here. You know, a Kalista being leveraged as a ban against G2 Esports. We saw Kalista play this morning against Griffin versus SKT, but not a lot of teams outside of Misfits in the LEC will reach for that Kalista.
And Kalista's one of those picks that as an AD carry you want to put a lot of time into. It's kind of like learning an entirely new style of marksman. So surprised to see it banned against Perks when he can't have put as many hours in as some of our traditional AD carries.
Yeah, and with the Kalista, the Draven, and the Lucian band is kind of what does Perks grab to be aggressive with this Galio lane. Now, things like the Kaisa still stand out, the Sivir, the Tristana, so there's still a wealth of options.
We'll see what G2 wants to ban next. Looks like it's a predominantly AD carry second ban phase. We are looking towards the Poppy here. Chachi, a historically very strong Poppy player, and taking that out of his hands will help G2 have a little bit more agency.
And I think that Poppy actually just fits really well in the current meta with kind of Urgot falling to priority. She can be blind picked fairly easily. She can slot into a lot of different compositions. And speaking of blind picks, the big pick that did make its way all through this draft phase is the Aurelia. And I know that G2 love to blind the Aurelia because they feel so confident in the power of the pick.
We'll see if they get it on this rotation. There's the Kaisa that you talked about earlier in form of AD carries, something Perks has played quite a bit, although it is him playing that Kai'Sa was not the reason they lost versus SK, but the way he played it in the late game could have been part of the reason that they failed to defeat.
It didn't feel too good. His lane phase was still relatively strong. We talked about how it can synergize really well with Galio. You have so much backline threat and reach down there, and I do expect this to be the Aurelia lock-in and this to be the standard G2 composition. And there you go, Wonder.
Yep, there is the Aurelia for the top lane. Good predictions on the day. Frost now. We'll see where Splyce decide to round out their composition. Could be top, could be mid, could be jungle. Sorry, of course, with that Jarvan. Still a very flexible pick, but I like having the top lane counter pick for last here for Splyce.
Is it really a counter pick when you knew it was going to come? There we go. So it is Xerxes jungle into the Jarvan, and it's Chachi's Renekton. Now, we have seen Renekton cropping up in the LEC. He can make use of some of the new itemization that's coming into 9.4 to make him a bit more durable on those side lanes in terms of scaling. But for me, this should be a very top-focused side of the map.
Yeah, I think we're going to see a lot of pressure put onto Jankos in the early game. If that Renekton can get ahead alongside the Jarvan, put the Aurelia behind, Splyce may have their avenue to success here against G2. And we wondered if G2 would experiment a little bit. We wondered if they go a little bit out of the box. I don't think they really have here. The LeBlanc a very comfortable pick for Caps, Aurelia very comfortable for Wonder as well.
And for me, it's the idea of kind of the 1-3-1 composition style coming out of G2. This is a very heavy skirmish style. This is what G2 really excel at. When you're down in the dirt with G2, they just rip you apart because they are so good individually. Whereas Splyce kind of went back to basics. They went to the 1-4, the ability to play a side lane with Chachi on the Renekton, but the ability to also look for team fights to collapse very quickly and use that Renekton as a team fighter.
Big game here for Splyce, you have to think. Currently in the playoff contention, in playoff spots, but after such a strong start to the split, they still want to pick up those last couple of wins, and their schedule is not looking the most kind. G2 today, SK tomorrow, Misfits and Fnatic left to play in the final week as well. Really looking for that 9th win, which across the course of LEC history has been the spot where you make it into playoffs.
Yeah, and you heard it from Duke's mouth, the Splyce coach, that he's not really looking at this game, but it is more important the SK and the Misfits. That said, if you're able to take down a G2 that might not be as focused, that might not be as hungry, that just makes it that much easier to walk into playoffs.
Especially G2 coming off a loss last week to SK as well. A win here, though, would put G2 right at the top of the standings. They lock top spot if they win against Splyce. Cannot be matched by anyone else. We're going to jump on to Summoner's Rift. First game of the day, coming down to crunch time here in the LEC.
Crowd actually packed house today.
Yeah.
But my questions remain, and kind of how I want to start this matchup is, what iteration of G2 are you going to get? Because G2, they've already locked top, so theoretically, they should be experimenting with a lot of their style. We've heard them on euphoria that Mickey and Jankos were talking about how they wanted to actually slow games down, that they wanted to show that they can play the, quote, macro game, you know, trade objectives. And against a team like Splyce, this is actually the perfect team to try to flex those, you know, cross-map plays. But you look at that composition, that looks like classic G2. We're just going to slaughter you in the lane phase before you even get going.
Look for those skirmishes as well. As you said, Splyce, one of the slowest game time in the LEC at just under 37 minutes, while as G2 have demolished their opposition very rapidly on average. In terms of scaling, both teams pretty well set, you have to think. You know, Sivir into Kai'Sa, both AD carries very strong in the late game. Lissandra, a team fighting demon when she can get into the right positions. Maybe a little bit of weakness from the Renekton in that top lane for Splyce.
But it's also very different on how these teams will execute on team fights. You have so much zone control from Splyce's composition between the Renekton, the Jarvan, as well as the Lissandra, that it's really easy for Kobbe just to throw out very safe Ws and see what ricochets he gets. So we know that Splyce have the ability to team fight. The analyst has asked it, can they actually survive to get to that stage in the game? So again, if you're going to play early game, I'm expecting them to give a lot of attention to Chachi. This is a matchup that can be extremely volatile, and it needs to swing one way or the other for them.
You can see Wonder giving that respect across already. Splyce had Xerxes start without a leash. This will be the first time G2 know exactly where he is on the map as he walks across this ward, getting the Scuttle Crab, and you can see, because of that, G2 going a little bit aggressive down here in the bottom side.
And it should mean that Xerxes will have control to get both Scuttle Crabs. You expect that Jankos is going to stick to his jungle, look for a fast full clear, and try to just get as much experience on Karthus as possible, which means that all of Splyce's lanes can play with priority. If they have the Scuttle Crab, they have the safety net, they can be far forward into their lanes.
You can see actually as well, Chachi came down and placed a ward towards the blue buff of G2, meaning they can spot Jankos on any of these rotations. They know he's cleared his top side jungle now and will be moving down towards the bottom side of the map. Gives a little bit more freedom for Splyce to play around the top side, try and get that Renekton ahead, try and put Wonder behind.
It's also dodging kind of the one big danger window of Karthus, which is that level 4 gank. So we see it time and time again. Once he has access to Wall of Pain, he just rocks up into a lane and can walk you down. So knowing that Karthus is on the bottom side of the lane, you see that Kabe and Norscaron, they were pushed in, now they've fallen back.
And I really enjoy talking about the bottom lane, but it looks like Splyce is still setting up towards this top side of the map. Wonder has not placed a ward. Here comes Xerxes looking for the first gank, not going to go in as Wonder comes down and will place that ward. Makes it very hard now for Xerxes to get a good path into that lane.
And I think there's a little bit of fear here from Xerxes. They didn't have perfect knowledge about where Jankos was on the Karthus because they didn't spot him. They knew he had been on the bottom side of the map, but they don't know how quickly he had done Krugs when he had made his back reset. You can see that Jankos immediately following paths up to the top side. So you see Wonder approach a bush like that, and you're like, Xerxes is going to go for it. They've got him perfectly. But because he didn't know where Karthus was, he played it safe and went back to farm his jungle.
I actually really like this path from Jankos because it's the idea that you can counter gank while still getting an optimal clear of your jungle. He's filled out his entire bottom side jungle, got all of his camps, and then still been there in time in case Xerxes was coming for a gank.
Yeah, and the invisible read was wide on for Xerxes.
That it was. Mickey going in here on the bottom lane, takes a little bit of damage from Kabe.
Do want to give shout out to Norscaron right there. Expertly placed Flay to try to disengage a lot of what Mickey was getting going. One of the big things about Galio from a support position is kind of everything that he offers for the lane phase. He has really strong all-in engagements with the taunt and his ability to Falcon punch forward. And he also offers great wave clear and kind of wave control with his Q. So for me, I think Galio is kind of like the #1 support to go to. There are a couple of options that you can play around it, but I do like the fact that Norscaron constantly used that Flay defensively as opposed to aggressively in this matchup.
It's always difficult as a Thresh in the matchup, wondering exactly how you can keep the Galio under wraps. There's a bit of a disparity in terms of summoners in the bottom lane, just want to bring a bit of attention to it. It's a teleport on Perks versus a heal on Kobe. So teleport has a slight advantage in terms of pushing the lane, then getting back into the lane.
I'm actually really surprised about that. Kabe has been, and Splyce have been like the teleport ADC team. It goes perfect for Sivir as well because of her ability to just be a tower pusher as opposed to a real AD carry. So the fact that he went fleet footwork, the fact that he has the heal as opposed to the TP, tells me that Kabe is giving a lot of respect to this G2 bot lane.
It definitely is. Relatively slow here from both the teams in the early game. They'll both be pretty happy with that, you have to think as well. Mickey and Jankos trying to team up, get some vision here across the rivers. The first Drake is an Ocean, very good on the Karthus, of course. Very good when you want these champions that spam out spells as they try and clear waves.
And you can already see that Mickey's placed tons of vision throughout that river, so if he does want to approach the jungle, or excuse me, the Ocean Drake as Karthus, he can take it.
But Splyce with the push pressure in the bottom lane. Still haven't seen Xerxes have that top lane gank that he'll really be looking for early on. Both mid laners 6 means it's a lot harder for Caps to get that full in engage. And my wonder is which jungler is going to strike first, because Jankos is almost to that level 6 mark. None of his jungle to get, so he won't be able to get that experience from there, but maybe looking for a bottom lane gank.
And it's about where they strike first. And like you're saying, the bot lane gank, the fact that Karthus is still level 5, however. Wow, I actually suspected Karthus to step forward.
So did I. I thought G2 would be the ones to spark the ignition on that play, but decided against it. Kobe very brave, stepping up into the face of the Galio as well. Xerxes here towards mid, maybe waiting for Caps to use that distortion forward. But Caps is going to hold on to it, knows that the jungler could be around.
But unlocking the Lissandra, so even though you don't execute on the gank in the mid lane, it does mean that they have a free pathway towards that top side.
We have to look at that difference in the top lane CS as well. About 20 farm already for Chachi. Wonder has given a lot of respect to the fact that Splyce could be playing towards this top side of the map, and you can see Jisoo are trying to answer.
Yeah, and this is so punishing, the fact that they're zoning Wonder off of all of this free gold and experience, but now possibly a 3v3.
Oh, here we go. Caps jumps forward, gets rooted up, jumps back with a cleanse. It's exactly what he needed to do in that split-second decision.
Instantaneous cleanse, but it should mean that the blue buff, unless Karthus wants to wander over for a smite contest, should be theirs, especially with all the vision control that Splyce have in the area.
Humanoid also still has that ultimate available, so if Caps jumps a little bit too far forward in that mid lane, we might see a play happening. very cagey stuff from both these teams early on, but G2 have never really been, they never have to accelerate from an incredibly early lead. Like the amount of times we see a game where G2 are even at 15 minutes and then just snowball the game away from their opponents.
It's the idea that once there's an open map, that the towers have been dropped, that G2 know exactly where they can attack on a map.
Mickey and Perks coming down towards this bottom side, but the Lantern will get them away. Chachi dived underneath the tower. Here comes the teleport from Splyce. They want to answer this one as Humanoid comes across. Caps might be looking for some damage onto Humanoid, but the Glacial Path just pushes Wonder and Jankos away.
And that can be punishing. The fact of the matter is that they're not playing double teleport in terms of the mid laner TP on LeBlanc as well as Lissandra. And the wave is just now being pushed in, so not the end of the world for Humanoid, but feels a little bit bad when you commit that type of resource. It means that he's not going to get a free back that he would have once had.
Especially when you're looking to make plays towards this top lane in the future. Burning that teleport means you can't do the strong three-man tower dive. You can't make that play if Wonder ever overextends. And although Chachi does have the lead in the top side, as G2, you're in a very comfortable position so far in this game.
But leads on Renekton versus leads on Aurelia mean very different things. Both these champions can snowball and be very volatile in kind of the 1v1 matchup. But I feel like Renekton's much more dependent on making sure that he gets a springboard in terms of like offensive itemization, because so much of Aurelia's damage is packed into her kit. She doesn't necessarily need to come back with like a Sheen to have kill pressure on someone. She can look for a Ninja Tabi, be completely fine in the lane, stack up her passive, and do ridiculous amounts of damage still.
Mickey was coming up from the bottom side here. There's a lot of deep vision for G2 already around that blue buff. Humanoid maybe looking for the jump across. There's still no cleanse on Caps as Xerxes steps forward. There's the path. Going on to Jankos. They get the lockdown. Heroic entrance is going to connect, but it's not enough. First blood goes over to Splyce, and now Xerxes not in the best of shapes. The Requiem comes out. G2 get a kill in return.
It's a 1-for-1 trade. First blood going over to Splyce, but the big win is the fact that Chachi is pretty much free hitting that tower. He did force Wonder back. The teleports are desynced, and it was a lot of gold that got shoved under.
Very good stuff for Splyce early on. Of course, giving kills across towards Perks is not the best of shapes, but won't be too worried at the moment as Perks is still trying to scale up on that Kai'Sa. Humanoid caught out with the roots, but not going to take too much. There's a bit of a summoner spell desync in the mid lane as well, as Humanoid no longer has his flash, so maybe we'll see Caps do something with that.
I do want to quickly go back to your Perks point, the fact that the Kai'Sa is the person who gets the kill gold right there. I was talking to Vedius, and it was this idea that the late game doesn't really exist in the same way that we used to think about it. The days of 5-6 item full builds are so rare right now in this iteration of League of Legends that a champion like Kai'Sa getting a springboard like this, someone who really spikes on kind of 2 items, 3 items, that is late game now. So champions like Callista, like Kai'Sa, almost fit better in the current iteration of the meta, and it just means so much more when they get going, because Sivir never gets to reach that point where she is 500 CS.
Exactly. You could see G2 anticipated this play happening. That's why they used the hero's entrance for Mickey, but didn't expect quite as much damage to come out from the Jarvan combo as that happened. Ocean Drake here started by Xerxes. It's going to be a smite fight. Jankos coming across, and because G2 are quicker to react, as an Ocean Drake just gifted over to our top team in the league.
Yeah, actually a mistake from Xerxes. Maybe he thought that he could try to sneak it. I'd have to see what happened before the replay, but he doesn't have priority in mid or bot lane. G2 have the push priority there, so it was fairly free for Jankos to rock up to that dragon and take it back.
And with about a 700 gold lead at the 11-minute mark, Splyce are in an okay shape. However, there's a lot of pressure being put to G2 towards this bottom side of the map.
I don't know, that doesn't look okay. The fact that Kabe and Norskaren have backed all the way off, again, respecting the fact that Jankos just took the Ocean Dragon. They know that they're contesting over Vision. There's the possibility that with this Galio, he can look for that all-in engagement, and it's just forcing Kabe and Norskaren to play so respectful. And you expect this. This is what they drafted. He's got the heal instead of the teleport. They have the thresh so they can pull it back, but none of the resources are going where they need to, which is to Chachi. We haven't seen a real successful gank up there.
Exactly. He has a 20 CS lead, but that's now mirrored in the bottom lane by Perks against Kobe. He's got 20 farm up as well. He's got a kill. He's got that double pickaxe build, which means his Q, the Acathian Rain, is already evolved, and that means the Kai'Sa is in so much stronger of a position. He can push equally with the Sivir. You've got the teleport on him, so he can join players across the map. Perks and G2 are very happy with this state of affairs.
So where are we going to break it next? We've unlocked Norskaren. We're trying to force some mid-priority, so Humanoid can either get a back or walk to something else.
That is the question, though. Where does Splyce go now that their bot lane has fallen so far behind? They can't really match up in the 2v2. Yes, the Sivir can just clear the waves, but unless you can really set up Chachi for greater success in the top lane, you're struggling.
It could just be that Splyce are saying, you know, fall back to our old tricks. We know that we're confident in the 5v5 lane phase, although I'll hold that thought.
Jankos is just around the corner here, but Xerxes on his way as well. Chachi trying to turn it around as Jankos goes in with the wall of pain. There's Claxton as well. Jankos down, Chachi gets out. That's how you unlock this Renekton. And now Wonder maybe in for a world of hurt as the Requiem comes down. That will chunk out Chachi only a little bit. Humanoid on his way up as well. He might catch out Wonder on that rotation. Caps trying to join with the fight. Wonder going the wrong side of the map, but trying to escape. Xerxes looking for him. Wonder has dodged around here well enough to avoid Humanoid and maybe come in for a gank here on towards the Splyce mid lane. Now, not going to do too much, but he does escape safely.
Yeah, respecting the fact that Xerxes took the long way around through his jungle, so if Humanoid didn't play that perfectly, he might walk into an Aurelia LeBlanc 2v1 scenario. So rightfully says, you know what, we got what we came for. We got the kill, excuse me. Kill went to Jarvan, but the power over into the Renekton's pocket. I'm just going to back away from this one.
Makes a lot of sense. Let's have a quick look at these first completed items. You've got Skirmisher Saber with the Cinder Hulk enchant on Xerxes, not going full damage on this Jarvan.
And we've seen this over in the LPL as well as the LCK. There's a bit more flexibility of playing Cinder Hulk versus Warriors enchant. I feel like this fits to Splyce's identity, and again, that idea of let's just fall back to our old tricks. We know that we're a strong 5v5 team. We still have a great 1-4 5v5 style of composition. We feel that, you know, if Chachi doesn't get the springboard, that he can be successful scaling it to a side lane. So let's just have our front line. Let's play this traditionally and have faith in Mr. Splyce and Kabe back there to walk over this.
It's worked out well for them in the past. Consistently a team that makes it into playoffs. It looks like G2 are going for the lane swap here, bringing Perks up towards the top side alongside Mickey on the Galio. Chachi waiting in the wings. Norscaran on his way up as well, but I don't think Chachi can do too much in the 2v1. Jankos going to join the fight. It's going to be a 3v3 in the top lane. You have to feel Norscaran just clearing out this vision. Chachi dodging around with the slice and dice, but doesn't really find any connections. Meanwhile, Wonder in the bottom lane pushing out Kobe. The Rift Herald has been started here for G2 as well.
But the call was that they wanted the Rift Herald, and Splyce wanted to make sure that G2 couldn't take it for free. But because Caps has such a dominating presence in the mid lane, this is really dangerous for
Mickey has the
Splyce.
flash, goes in with the taunt, and immediately the teleport comes in from Wonder. Chachi trying to get away with the slice and dice. Perks jumps in with the Captain Rain, but the Lantern will save Chachi in the nick of time.
And you can see Humanoid was waiting on spawn saying, okay, team, are we going in for this team fight? Do I need to use the teleport towards that Rift Herald? Instead, they say no, give it to them, let's live to fight another day, and Humanoid returns to the mid lane.
Really good stuff there from Splyce to escape, but you wonder, did Chachi need to be that far out of position? He's now burnt his flash, gives him less pressure in the lane. Rift Herald's used mid by G2. They're controlling this top side of the map. Humanoid jumps in. They're looking for the engage. Lantern lands. Hero's entrance will come out, but already one down. Rift Herald is the target now for Splyce. They don't want that to get a charge off. It will get one in, but it does not take the tower, and that is a win for Splyce.
Yeah, and the only unfortunate thing for Splyce here is that they don't have a minion wave behind them. They can't immediately turn that pick to try to force an objective going down, whereas G2, they chunk out the mid lane with the Rift Herald. They chunk out the top lane. So while Splyce picked up the kill, I still think that's a win for G2.
Jankos caught out here though as he tried to get vision around the Infernal Dragons. As he pulled back with the Lantern. Cap stepping forward. There's the hook. Only hits onto Caps. Cleanses away. There's an Infernal Dragon on the cards now. It's just spawned in, but with Jankos backing away, I think G2 will give up pressure on it for the moment.
I think it's a safe call for G2 to recognize that we're not going to be contesting the Infernal just yet, because there's so many vital cooldowns that are missing. The Lissandra ult, the Cataclysm. So G2 are saying, we'll have our cooldowns up much faster. Let's reset the map, walk towards Infernal, and try to find this window where before Splyce get access to these big wombo combos, we can try to force Infernal.
That's what they're trying to do. G2 looking for the skirmishes, and Splyce kind of on tenterhooks in some of these fights. Have to remember how many times this team has made it to playoffs. The last 3 times they've been fought out in pretty close games, you know. Looking at last summer, they were knocked out by Schalke, the eventual finalists. They came 3rd in spring, and then before that, they were knocked out by G2, the eventual finalists as well. So a team with a strong pedigree. But this year, this second half of the split, they haven't quite lived up to that.
And it's just unfortunate that Splyce don't get a lot of praise, because they are quite a clean, kind of fundamental team. For me, they're kind of like baby's first League of Legends team. Like, they just play really clean, objective-oriented, fundamental League of Legends. You know, we want this, we set up the vision here, we go for it, but it's just not flashy. And so it's much easier to be a G2 fan when you see all these players just flexing on kids.
Splyce with the Infernal Dragon control, that will be a very good Drake for them. And they will secure it. 17 minutes in, they have a 1,000 gold lead or 600 gold lead over G2. They have a strong Renekton. Their bottom side of the map is looking okay, although a little bit behind against that Kai'Sa.
Yeah, and giving up the Infernal, G2 just made the call, hey, we don't have access to teleport from Wonder. Let's instead open up the map, because that's where this composition really thrives. Again, it's a 1-3-1. Their ability to outscale on side lanes, to be so devastating when they control Fog of War because of the assassination potential of Caps. You throw a Karthus ult on top of it. A open, dark map is exactly where G2 want to be. Enclosed areas around big monster objectives like the Infernal, like the Baron, that's where Splyce thrive.
Well, no real objectives for them to fight around now. That's mid lane tower still up for G2, which means that Splyce will maybe try and put some pressure around it. You can see them coming down into the river, trying to gain vision control. Caps is stepping up, but in that 1-3-1, already moved over to a side lane. Xerxes looking for the flank here, as Humanoid could go for a bit of aggression.
And reminder, Caps just needs to chunk out someone enough that Jankos can finish the dirty work for him.
That's what we saw from G2 so much in week 1. Jankos just continually pressing that R button. It worked out incredibly well for them, and it's the reason they're sitting at the top of the standings as well at 12-2.
His ability to press R, that's all
You just got to do it, you know? If you can't press your ultimate, you can't win games. And that is kind of the philosophy behind Karthus, I think.
The pro tip from Medic, if you look at your keyboard between E and T, smash that button.
Just press it as many times as you can. But as we approach kind of this more open map, as the laning phase ends and we look towards the next objective for these teams, it looks like Splyce are going towards the mid lane. Perkz uses a great ultimate just to get out of the range of the box, but Mickey is going to be sacrificed here. Splyce once again get vision control around mid, and now can try and push towards that tower.
I mean, frankly, that was a mistake from Perkz and Mickey right there. They thought that they could be that far forward. They didn't have any of the vision control, and you're against the likes of a Jarvan and a Lissandra. The ability to have long range, snap engage on your opponents, it's just, I'm going to say disrespect.
Yeah, I understand that. Perkz has tried to give it a little bit of respect over by getting the QSS as his second item. Doesn't want to get caught out too many times, as Humanoid maybe gets caught out by Caps a little bit. Uses Glacial Path, can't follow it up as Xerxes comes in from the side as well, but Humanoid not going to pop the ult. Didn't want to go all in on Caps when he knows he's still got the cleanse.
Caps chasing them up the lane.
But you get the Ocean Drake proc off that as well, because he's not actually in combat.
So the last kind of speed bump for G2 before the map gets really cracked open is going to be that mid tower, which, again, Perkz and Mickey, they know the objective that they want, they just didn't have the proper setup around it, but round 2 here, they got some friends.
Yeah, Judge is coming in, Jankos and Mickey just trying to hold off this advance, and Perkz has relatively good wave play, of course, with the Infinity Edge, with the Acathian Rain.
And the idea here is that Perkz and Mickey are just going to park it, be a little bit safer, and then you can allow Caps and Wonder to kind of split up Splyce, and eventually something will break. Either G2 will find a kill, a 1v1, a 2v2 on a side solo lane with the help of Jankos' ultimate, or Splyce won't be able to juggle kind of all of the pressure points on their map, and that Mickey and Perkz will get up to that very low mid lane tower and shove it down. So it's a patience game for G2.
Just trying to get that pressure in the side lanes. You look at it, Caps has the Luden's Echo building up towards a Morello Nomicon next with the Oblivion Orb. However, it's pretty hard to work your way through Humanoid with the Aftershock, with the Merc Treads, even with the health you get from the Proto Belt as well. Alessandra, not the easiest assassination target for a LeBlanc.
I mean, yeah, it's hard to blow her up, but again, you're still counting on the Karthus, and while they sit here and they continue to farm, G2 are probably still feeling really good about the breakpoints that they have kind of left down their itemization routes.
And we'll keep an eye on those items as we work our way through the game. 20 minutes in, though. Splyce still very much in this matchup. Not always that we say that in a G2 game. Usually a couple of thousand gold ahead by this point. Caps jumps in with the chains. Just jumps away as well. And the smite comes down. Humanoid secures the blue and not too much going on. But you can see the nuisance that Caps can be in this side lane. Wonder having time to farm up as well has meant that he's hit the Trinity Force against a Spear, Sojourn, and the Black Cleaver, though, on the side of Church.
And this is kind of the standard build that's coming out of Renekton. I feel like it does give him a bit more power, whereas Renekton would kind of fall off a cliff previously. Makes him a bit more durable, although you're still facing Wonders Aurelia of all things, and I feel like at any point Aurelia eventually does Aurelia things and outscales virtually everyone on side lane.
Maybe apart from Jax. I'm wondering if Jax in the late game would beat out an Aurelia, but no Jax in this game, so it doesn't really matter too much for either of these teams. Now, Wonder has come down to join the party as Chachi is pushing out top in response, but with Wonder coming down, you think this will be the mid lane tower being opened up by G2.
Man, it's just Wonder saying that I got the top lane far enough forward that Chachi needed to respond to it. He needed to push it all the way back. You can see him doing that now, and it gave Wonder the space to make the rotation from the top lane to the mid, force it down.
And with the Inferno Drake coming up as well, that's what G2 need to play around, because you can't really give double Infernal over to Splyce. 70% AD and AP is very strong. Perkz is baiting here for his team. The hook comes out. Norscarin doesn't quite connect, but Xerxes comes in from the side, and now Humanoid going in with Glacial Path as well as the Barney in the mid lane. As the fight erupts, Wonder forced out. Mickey not in the best of shapes, pulled out of the heroic entrance, and now Chachi's on the back line, and Splyce are just running their way through G2. G2 step forward. They made a bait with Perkz, but they were the ones baited as Splyce just collapsed around them. Chachi can't quite get the chase up here. Looking for the final slice and dice, looking for that connection, but he's not quite close enough. And Perkz is just going to run away with the supercharge. Chachi now in all kinds of hurt, trying to get towards the lantern, caught out with the flawless duet, still healthy enough. He gets to the lantern. Caps though might jump across the wall onto Chachi. The Inferno Drake goes down. Caps going in with a distortion. Oh, he misses the chains, and Chachi gets the hell out of there. Teleport coming in now from Perkz as he tries to join the fight once again, but he's just going to push the mid lane. Caps jumping forward. Humanoid waiting in the bush, and Caps will go back.
I don't know who is more bravado right there. The fact that Chachi dived all the way towards the inhib tower to try to pick up Perkz, or that Perkz ran out of that bush is like, I bet I can dodge this Destin. Just to be fair, he did, but to quote the LCS, that's a team fight comp, and they just got smashed in the team fight.
Oh, Splyce finally showing how their teamfight comp can work. They're about 700 gold ahead, but a second Infernal Dragon, when you have a Sivir, when you have a Renekton, when you have Alessandro, just gives you so much more impetus to take those teamfights later on.
And it just means that the power that G2 would have had in these side lanes with the LeBlanc and the Aurelia can mean that much less. As we take another look at this, I cannot believe Perkz was so bold. It's something that I do love about G2, that he thought, I can just flex, I can make the dodge, but they didn't have the proper vision. The control wards set on the top of this brush mean that it's just free entry for Xerxes and Lissandra here.
A fight like that deserves to be our Alienware big play. You can see Perkz just running away, running away. Chachi just needed one slice, one dice, gets it afterwards, but wanted to use it to escape, and then just about gets away. You can see him trying to dodge away from that stun. Eventually gets to the lantern. Caps unable to find the final chain that would have spelled Chachi's doom.
MVP Blast Cone.
Too strong. I thought the minion auto attacks were going to chase him all the way down as well. But again, a fight in the mid lane as Xerxes looks to go for the engage. Mickey low, taken out. Xerxes can't get to the lantern in time. And here comes Cap jumping in onto Norscarin. It's a 3v4 in favor of G2, but Humanoid just turns it around. Almost gets out. Chachi now on the flank as Perkz looks for the engage. There's the Requiem. Norscarin goes golden to stop it. Caps has jumped all the way back. Wonder flashed away from there by Norscarin, and it ends up being a 2-for-2 in the mid lane.
So Chachi just a little bit slowed for the flank right there. Does manage to get on the back half of the team fight to allow Norscarin and Kabe to walk away from that one. I want to see how it started, because again, it feels like Splyce are just finding the engagements that they want, maybe not under the tower.
Yeah, that was probably a little bit too aggro. I think Xerxes is the one who initiated it by jumping in, but we will catch that in a replay, I am sure.
Okay, what happened here? What was the call?
Looks like it was go, 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 go.
The call was full steam ahead. And you know what? I can respect it. They saw that 2 members of G2 weren't out. They thought that, okay, quick snap engage. Let's see if we can delete someone before this fight even begins. Unfortunately, you roll the dice with G2, the bear trap.
I mean, not many teams will take a fight like that against G2 and get a 2-for-2 out at the end of it, though. So Splyce still fighting hard here. 7 kills to 3 up, about 300 gold in it. But I want to just bring quick attention to Kobe. He's picked up 3 kills in the last few fights, now has an Infinity Edge and an Essence Reaver, almost matching Perkz in terms of itemization.
And it's kind of, where are these 80 carries in terms of their power troughs? For me, I still give it to Perkz, but it's about the execution of these team fights. And right now, everything has been on Splyce's terms. Every time we see them, it's the Jarvan and Lissandra that's starting it up, as opposed to G2, you know, getting these skirmishes, getting these 2v2s or these 3v3s, no matter how the fights break out.
Splyce still very much in this game, in contention, fighting still for that position in playoffs. Of course, sitting at 8-6, you're really looking at 9 wins as the sort of break point to make sure you get into playoffs. And if Splyce could take a win here, looking at the rest of their schedule, it would be a very, very good win for them.
It takes so much pressure off of them for that SK and that Misfits game.
Against the people who are near them in this playoffs. Now, Caps has jumped onto Chachi here. Chachi pops the ultimate, trying to kill the weak as Caps gets engaged on, but jumps back away. The Baron has been started. Jankos on the wrong side of the map for it, though, and already the Baron started here by Splyce. However, you've got Mickey, you've got the Taunt, you've got Aurelia there as well. The hook doesn't connect from Norscarin, and maybe Splyce will back out of this one. A little bit too greedy from them, perhaps, as Chachi goes down towards the bottom side. The engage comes out. It's all on Mickey. They just want the Galio. They want the support. They'll take him out. The Baron tree set, though, ends up being a 1-for-1 trade across the map.
Sacrifice Mickey's life to make sure that you at least get over to this Baron pit. So well worth the trade for G2 as they sidestep disaster there.
could have been a monumental, pivotal moment in this game. But Splyce unable to sneak the Baron away, and now Caps once again in that side lane. Such a strong position. He's level 16, highest level in the game.
I'm going to be honest here. You know, I came into this thinking, G2, they're just going to play with their food. They're going to rip Splyce apart. Splyce are not a team that like to attack teams in the lane phase. They like to play it slow, like to play it controlled. And G2, this is not them just necessarily experimenting or trying out a different style. This is them actually making pretty critical mistakes at key team fights, and Splyce capitalizing on that. That Infernal Drake fight really speaks volumes. So G2 definitely need to tighten it up if they don't want another SK performance.
Definitely agree with you there. Of course, Splyce have to react properly. You have to make the reactive play appropriately if you want to make these catches. Xerxes trying to jump onto Caps. We've got a little bit of a flank off there, and now it's going to be a 5v5. You have to feel it's another Inferno. You can't give this up if you're G2. Perks step very far forward here. Jankos doing the Inferno. Splyce realize maybe something's up as Caps goes in, gets caught out. Locked down. Is Caps down? He is! And perhaps within the hopes of G2 ever winning this fight. Jankos still on the Dragon. Splyce come down. They won't get it. Dragon goes across the G2, but already they've lost 3 players, and you have to think that's Baron on the cards for Splyce.
Yeah, they've got the wave behind them. They can pick up the mid lane if they want, or they can walk just past it towards the Baron. Now, Jankos is available, doesn't have access to the smite. It's just now up, but does have access to his flash.
Do you fight this if you're G2? You've got the Inferno.
You run it up, man.
I mean, you're G2, though. I know G2, sometimes they fight these things.
Okay, Chachi doing his due diligence. He's making sure that, okay, is Karthus going for this? Is Jankos going to try to use the Blast Cone over the wall? In fact, you also have Lissandra guarding it, so perfect setup from Splyce. A massive team fight that, again, G2 walked into blind. Snap shut, taking the Baron.
3,000 gold lead now for Splyce, and let's watch Caps get caught out once again. He does not have cleanse because he used it in that fight bot lane.
I'm going to say huge credit to Splyce's vision control this entire series so far. They've always had control wards. They're always fighting on their control wards, and it's the confidence of the vision denial to say that we can just blow this guy up and lair our CC.
Even with cleanse, I think Caps is dead for that one. Unfortunately for Splyce, they do not get the Inferno. Jankos secures that for his team, but because of it, they get a Baron. 28 minutes in, and they are pushing G2 back. Now, that mid lane tower, you feel, has to be their first objective. A lot of standing gold on the map for them. You've still got all 3 of those tier 2s. You've still got this mid lane as well. At the end of this Baron buff, Splyce could be looking at a 5, 6, 7,000 gold lead easily.
But the nice thing for G2, or kind of the one breather that they have, is they do have an abundance of wave clear stacked onto their composition. So they can try to slow down Splyce here.
They definitely can. The question is, are you going to be able to slow them down enough? Not for this mid lane tower, at least that's going to fall.
It's also playing that delicate edge of, you can see that Splyce are more than willing to instantly jump and pull the trigger onto these team fights. And if G2 die too close to their base with too big a minion wave behind Splyce, it could just be game over.
Splyce reverting to the 1 and 4, the composition that we talked about from the start. They've got Humanoid off in the side lane. He's still got the teleport. He's got the ultimate if he joins the fight as well. Chachi waiting in the wings, looking for the opportune moment to strike here, as G2 have to answer in the side up towards that top side. Now, minion waves pushing in at the same time. This is where you really see a team and their strategy come to the fore. Can you play this properly, Splyce, or will you get caught out by G2?
I think it's...
Oh, they're going to try and catch them out themselves. Mickey hooked up. There's the box as well. So much damage coming out to him, and he's got 1. G2, you might have the wave clear, but if Xerxes just goes all in, you're going to fall. Redemption used as well here by Splyce. Maybe looking for a little bit more as they go towards those side lanes.
And I was just going to comment on kind of the formation that Splyce had put up in their 1-4. Normally, you would see Chachi being the one swing out to that side lane, but the fact that it's Lissandra, Chachi doesn't have virtually any MR. He's basically just there to fight Aurelia, and so the fact that Caps was out into the side lane meant that Humanoid had to match him to make sure that they could have pressure there. So good job on pulling the trigger, on finding the fight, on getting those towers. But also, I really like Splyce's lane assignments to the nature of the game right now.
I need to take a breather. Never mind these players. How much tension must they be under in this
I'm just
game?
excited for Splyce. Like, we say it every week. You know, Splyce, it's hard to hype them up. They're just kind of a boring team. They do the same thing every single time. But if it works and it puts wins on the board, why not take down the best team in the league?
Exactly. If it works against the team that has been dominating everyone else, you must be doing something right. Splyce pushing in the side lane here with Chachi, but Caps, no MR, remember, on that Renekton. All of G2 coming down here. Can Splyce react quickly enough?
He does have stopwatch.
He's got stopwatch. There's a hero's entrance, trying to slice and dice out. will pop the ultimate. The Cold Week coming out as well. Goes into stopwatch. Splyce, they just want to push mid. They just want to go for mid tower here. They will get the shutdown, but it's all 5 members of G2. The mid wave pushing in as the inhibitor has to be the target for Splyce.
And that's why Chachi wasn't the guy on the side lane, why it was Humanoid, but it did buy them a lot of time to force this down. We'll see if they also turn it into an inhib or respect the flank potential, because here comes G2.
Caps totally behind Splyce right now, but he's not going to be able to make any catches out. Wonder still pushing down towards the bottom side as well.
That was that moment of, okay guys, everyone stay calm. We're on G2's possible inhib. We're not going to try to force it, just disengage.
That's the sort of moment in solo queue where your team goes too far and then you lose the game off the back of it as the enemy team just pushes towards your base.
We're basically in promos for Splyce here.
Yeah. Probably the most important game of their split so far. They backed off, they've reset. Let's have a look at where they are in terms of items. Zhonya's finished on towards Humanoid. You've got 3 items on the Renekton. You've got very tanky items on Xerxes as well. Really looking for that next Zeal item from Kobe. That's when he really comes online. We always talk about it. 4, 5 items on the Sivir. That's when you can just demolish someone with those ricochets.
And we made the comment at the start of this cast that normally the games don't go this long. Like, we know that Splyce like to play this slow style, but G2 are so much faster, and you expect as G2, the heavy favorites in control of the league, would be in control of this game. And it just speaks to Splyce's strength. Play what you know, play where you're confident, play in your pocket. We'll get there in the end, boys, and Kabe's ready to take over this game.
He's doing it at the moment. 17,787 damage. 2 champions from that Sivir. Ocean Drake picked up quite late, not really going to do too much. Humanoid chased away here by Perks, who has a lot of damage on the Kai'Sa, sitting at 4 items himself.
He was not going to take that. Humanoid did have ult as well as the Flash and Hourglass available.
Yeah, you don't really want to dive all the way in. Perks has learned from his mistakes, but now it is once again Chachi trying to deal with Caps in the side lane. He's not in the best of shapes, but the rest of Splyce are coming down to react to this. Maybe looking for this bot lane tower because they haven't quite broken through this tier 2 line. Tier 2 goes up down in the top lane for G2, but Splyce with 4 members strong can just push in. Remember, Perks has the teleport on the Kai'Sa. He continues to step forward. I've seen this story before. Last week against SK, G2 left a man in the side lane and it cost them dearly. This time, they've got Wonder going up towards Perks as well, so shouldn't be too much of an issue. And
it's G2 trying to play that objective trade game. You can see that Wonder also forced in the mid wave into that mid tower, and again, if Splyce started to overcommit to pushing bottom, that it would have been a very easy rotation for Perks and Wonder to rotate to mid to start taking these towers. So really respecting how strong Splyce are in kind of that 4-man, 5-man unit, and trying to play hit and run League of Legends where you chop up the map.
What are the next teamfight objectives for Splyce? Well, you have to think the Baron is the key target for them. If they can pull G2 into a fight there, they might be in very good shape.
I mean, we say that, and you would expect it for how G2 have, how Splyce have been taking all of these team fights. But if G2 can get over there earlier, place down vision, and just not get flanked or caught out blind, they still do have a very strong composition.
Splyce trying to get this mid-wave pushed in so that they can go and deny some of the vision that G2's already set up. Mickey actually backs away, and you'll see Splyce now step forward as a group, hop on the hunt to make sure that they are in the best possible shapes. I think that was mostly for Humanoid, who was a little bit caught unawares. Oracle's lens was not used there from Xerxes. Could have been. Caps chunked out a little bit, but the wall of pain comes down. Humanoid going into the back line, trying to get Yankos. He flashes away. Hero Kindred's great hook on Caps. He cleanses. Now Splyce stepping forward. There's Cataclysm. Yankos forced off the backside of this fight, and Kobe just opening up. Boomerang, boomerang, boom to G2. Here comes the Requiem Dome, as it looks like Yankos is just in the right position to use it. Humanoid pops the stopwatch. Splyce get 1.
And the only saver left alive for G2 here is going to be Caps. Can Caps and Wonder approach this Baron pick? Can they chunk out enough members to stop Splyce from picking up their 2nd Baron of the game? Here comes the TP from Kai'Sa.
Perks can get onto the back of this fight. You can see Chachi backing away. Still has the teleport though. Caps on the back line as G2 trying to start the fight in the river. Chachi there. Caps has the flank position. He's gone back. Need the teleport in soon because Caps just going to jump in. Surprise, says Caps. That's 2 down. A 3rd to follow. And it's all on Kobe. He takes out 1. Chachi's on the fight. Can Kobe get the boomerangs in? Can he turn it around for his team? The only man who's been on this team the whole time. It's Kobe. And it's a party for Splyce because they ran through G2. Holy hell!
That said, the Baron has been saved for G2. Huge play from both members. Caps making sure that they stop the Baron, maybe following it up again.
Oh, almost landed the chains, but Chachi will get away just in the moment. What a fight from Kobe, though. What a moment to step up and be counted for your team.
And the one time that Splyce actually lose vision control of an area, Caps manages to sneak into the darkened area.
He's got flash still. He's got the chains as well, but Kobe still has the spell shield. 1 auto, 2 auto, goodbye Caps. Once again he goes down, that's a minute before the LeBlanc is back.
And remember when I said that Sivir should never reach 6 items? When you have that much shutdown, 9, 0, and 5, Sivir is going to be 6 items. She is going to take over this game. So let's pull it back. Let's see what happened. G2 fans are rejoicing at this point. They're like, yes, we found it. You left it open, and we're going to rip this game wide open. Huge damage, but Kabe and Chachi managed to pull the fight back. Sivir is doing so much damage at this point. She hits you once, it's gonna crit, and it's gonna kill you.
Kobe 3-shot perks in that fight. You could tell there's a little bit of malice in it as well. Splyce start up the Baron, Elder Dragon up in 50 seconds as Splyce, second Baron of the game, fully built Sivir in the perfect spot to take down the #1 team here in the LEC.
And at this point, G2 cannot fight Splyce. If it's a front-to-back fight, they automatically lose. So they're saying, how do we eat up as much map as possible? How do we find the pick, get into the backline, and delete Kabe? You're looking at probably the hero play from Caps and Jankos to delete this Sivir.
You have to think if Splyce take this win, they go from being just a playoff contender to a contender for top 2 here in Europe. Maybe not in the regular season, but definitely coming into playoffs. Now, Caps has the flank position. The inhibitor tower goes down in the top lane, and Splyce backing off once again. They know the Elder's up in 15 seconds, maybe just looking for the reset there, but G2 already there. Perks and Mickey getting vision control around it, making sure they're in the ideal spot.
And if G2 can actually zone Splyce out from walking in here, G2 could actually try to tank this up and take it, but Splyce smartly just immediately ran there.
On the hunt, Parks takes a crit. Chachi going in as well. Perks stunned up. Here comes Darcy. He dunks onto Perks. They dunk Jankos as well, and already G2 2 men down. The Requiem coming out. Norscaven will be sacrificed for his team as Jankos gets a counter kill, but Splyce could just look for the end here. They just need to push in with this minion wave.
And they grab the minion wave instead of going for the open inhibs and are trying to go through the bottom of the map. Caps is resetting his position. He is still alive. He still does a lot of damage, but can he hold this?
That is the question. All inhibitor towers down now. The first inhibitor here from Splyce. 2 cannon minions in this wave as well as G2. 3v4 trying to answer. Double taunt comes out. Caps trying to jump on Kobe, but it just doesn't have the damage. Wonder does though. That's Kobe down. The shutdown. And maybe that's the fight that G2 needed. Caps will fall as well, but already G2 have 2. And now Chachi not in the best of spots as Mickey gets the taunt. Wonder looking for the chase. The slice and dice. Chachi will take him out. They turn it back around the stun. Is it enough? Is it enough? It's not the stopwatch. You can go golden all you freaking like. Because Chachi will take you out for the triple.
Best in the LEC, meet best in the late game. Splyce plant their feet. They finally have the confidence to push in, and they have now taken the bottom inhib of G2.
What a performance from Splyce so far. 22 kills to 11 up. It's 8,000 gold in the lead. They're looking towards the Elder Dragon.
Oh, just a crazy series of events. And here's the thing, I was like, finally, Splyce have the confidence. They're going to try to end the game, but G2 remind them, you don't have all of those massive cooldowns. You had used all of your ultimates in the beginning. We have the cooldown advantage. We can try to fight against the gold lead here.
And you can see here, Chachi, Mickey thinks he's got him. Chachi's like, oh, I can turn this. I have my Fury up. Wonder goes golden for a second, but Chachi times it perfectly. Now, the Elder Dragon has been started here by Splyce down to 6,000 HP already. G2 have no way of answering this. This is a triple Dragon Elder, double Infernal Elder, more importantly here for Splyce.
This is game for Splyce. This should be it. This is the nail in the coffin for G2. A team fight composition with battle stats galore on the Elder, double Infernal. There's no way they don't take it in.
Ooh, last team fight you have to feel. Maybe a little bit of magic from Caps. We've called him miraculous in the past. Can he be that? Look at this from Kobe though. Going for the death dance. Who needs boots? Who needs boots? Kobe has the on the hunt, has the chase potential, just needs to be with his team now, has the death dance. Makes it so much harder for him to be burst down. And G2, it's a flank fight they need.
And that's the key thing. It's making sure that Kabe has the defensive itemization, that's what we're going to call it, to survive the burst damage. All he needs to do is one W that gets off, a single auto attack, and he will rip through G2's front line.
Caps with the flank, Kobe caught out, but Chachi's on a rampage! That's a very dead Carthus, back to death for you. The Requiem comes out, it's not going to do too much through the locket. And now Mickey needs a perfect engagement, he doesn't have the flash. Caps forced away to the top side of the fight. It's G2 just trying to lick their wounds a little bit in their own base. There's a redemption out from Splyce. They can reset, they can just wait for the minion waves to push in.
And all of the wards placed around Splyce, making sure that Caps can't find an entrance to get into that back line.
Splyce are staring down G2 right now. They're looking them in the eye. They say, you want to play in the late game? Well, the late game is our friend. Perks jumps away with the supercharge, but caught out. There's the hero's entrance as well. Chachi will go down, but he's still got the GA. Mickey going in for the engage. Can't quite get the damage off, but Carly can. Vanguard's edge comes out. Caps still unable to get a good flank position. The Frozen Tomb on Wonders. He's underneath his towers. Caps gets the shot down onto Chachi, but it's just not enough. Carly's still alive, and that's all you need if you're Splyce. Going for those Nexus towers as one comes back out, but Carly sends him right back to the fountain. Splyce clean it up. They stare down G2, and they will take down the top team in Europe.
Who is going to dictate the pace of that game? Total opposites here. The fastest team in the league versus the slowest team in the league at 41 minutes. Splyce say, you're the best in LEC, we're the best at 5v5. Fight us on our terms.
And time after time, they just pulled G2 into the fray. They said, G2, you don't want to fight us? Okay, you go to a side lane. We'll take everything on the rest of the map. We'll force the 4v5. We'll run face first into you, and we'll just bash you down.
And there were so many fights that G2 just weren't ready. They didn't expect Splyce to be so decisive. And I want to talk about some of the key members of that decisiveness. Yes, you have champions like the Lysandra, like the Jarvan, so of course it's going to be Xerxes and Humanoid's names that come up. But Humanoid, a rookie, to be that willing to pull the trigger, to find the correct zone control, to find the correct target every single time, had a phenomenal performance.
Such a good performance. I remember talking about him week 2, week 3 when he was stepping up on the Lysandra, and we were saying, hey, is this guy our rookie of the split? Then his name fell out of favor. And now once again, he's definitely stepping up there, especially against someone like Caps.
And you heard it from the team all the time. When they talk about their rookie mid laner, they say this guy is confident. He doesn't care who he's facing. He will have the confidence, sometimes cockiness, to go for the play. Showed today.
Definitely showed today. Great stuff from Splyce with that win. They pretty much guaranteed themselves this place in playoffs. I haven't quite run the numbers yet. I haven't put on my cap and got my time stone out, my cape, and got my time stone out. But I'm pretty sure with 9 wins, they should be guaranteed a playoff spot. We'll confirm that for you later on. G2, though, with a loss, mean they're not quite locked as the #1 dogs here in Europe. Still only locked top 2. Still have a road to Rotterdam. Still one of the best teams in the league, but a loss like this will be disappointing.
And the questions are, was this G2 at top 4? Or top form. I'm gonna say no, just hesitantly. I don't want to take away from Splyce's victory. Very well earned, makes their playoff road that much easier. But this still didn't feel like the vicious G2 that we expect to see.
Not at all. It felt like they were just willing to play to the beat of someone else's drum. We're going to have a look at some of the key fights there for Splyce, because it was just fight after fight after fight. They kept finding good fights on their terms.
And it was the fact that G2 just looked completely unready for all of these fights. And yeah, you have so many hard engage tools, but you have to expect that. You need to respect your opponent and respect the power of their composition.
You definitely do, and you can see like the willingness to go for the fights. This fight was very much dictated by the fact that G2 had let those double Infernos go down earlier, so they had to fight around it. And then this moment, Kobe being able to get away, not dying, the ricochets start coming out, he does so much work.
No lie, as soon as I saw the front half of that fight, I'm like, oh no,
it's
G2,
done.
They've done it again. There's no way that Splyce come back from this, but Kobe plants his feet. And not just Kabe, but visit Chachi. Chachi had such an incredible game on that Renekton. I feel like you can grab any player that you want. They're all deserving of an MVP or a player of the game. I don't know where I would put it. I think it has to be Chachi, personally.
Okay, well, you're going to be a little bit disappointed, because if you thought Xerxes, Kobe, or Norscaron had a strong performance, you can vote for them as key player of the games at LOL Esports.
Chachi's not there?
Yeah, I mean, Chachi had a great performance, but the people behind the scenes decided against it, and I'm trying to think of a reason they would have done that. We're gonna say that everyone else had better performances. All of Splyce played incredibly well.
I'm literally about to walk backstage and just slam someone. It's fine.
I'm glad I'm not backstage. For more on Splyce's win, here's Frankie with their support.
Hello, yes indeed. I'm with Norscaron, and actually when I was speaking to your coach, Duke, before this match, he said if you guys could survive the early game, you could do it. And my word, did you do it, Norscaron. How did you fix your mid game for this match?
I mean, we've always kind of had a good early game on stage, I would say, compared to, I would say, like our practice. Yeah, it's not the same, but we figured that if we could survive the early game, which G2 is very good at, we figured we could beat them. And we had the Gathering Storm on Sivir. He was very strong in the end of the game. We figured out that G2 really likes to not team fight, or they like to team fight with the wrong champions. So we just figured that we would beat them if we team fighted with the right champions. So that
Team
was kind of
fighting with the wrong champions. I'm sensing a bit of flaming here. Who are the wrong champions?
I mean, they're champions that should play like, or the champion they play kind of like 1-3-1 or 1-4 kind of, and they just team fight with it, but they should be like pressuring multiple sides at the same time. So we figured that was a weakness of them, and yeah, we think we had the right idea coming into the game.
A weakness of them, though, because you guys truly focused on perks in your draft. You were just banning all the ADCs. What was the plan there?
I think it's not like targeting perks in general. I think just AD meta right now. The Lucian Draven is really strong right now, and I don't quite remember what else we banned, but it's not really because of perks. But yeah, it's just a meta.
Now, although that was a really impressive performance for you guys today, Noscurin, we like to have a laugh here on the LEC, or at least I do, and this is my first week, and I've got to draw a little bit of attention to that Chachi solo pursuit of Wondering Perks. Going past the 2 towers to their base, thought he could get the kill, nearly died himself. What was it like on comms?
I mean, I think it was just like people not saying anything, like we were just happy we won the fight, and then everybody sees Chachi on the minimap just chasing a bit long. I think he probably thought he could get him, but he was not fast enough, and we were kind of just like, Chachi, what's going on? Like, what are you doing? But he just backed off in the end, and it was okay.
We said the same thing in the green room, Noscurin. Right, well, we have to go to a quick break, but do not go anywhere, because after this, it's going to be Excel versus Schalke.